Week 2 of the NFL preseason gets underway tonight, or what I like to call how NFL owners rip off regular season ticket owners of their hard-earned cash. And of course, that means tomorrow we'll inevitably get more presidential tweets about players that are not kneeling for the national anthem. All this for meaningless, worthless preseason exhibition games that mean absolutely nothing. But you can bet on them, so we'll talk about them. And I'll break down a couple of the games here tonight. Taking a look at the games, of course, between the Patriots and the Eagles, a Super Bowl rematch, which means absolutely nothing in the world. And I'll also take a look at the game between the Redskins and the Jets. Now, in terms of who's hot at the site, well, the hottest handicapper would once again be me, because I won yet again yesterday. Another Raise the Bar 20 dime release, number 14 out of 19 since 3 Fridays ago, as I rode the Atlanta Braves, and they won again on the run line, completing a 4-game sweep of the Miami Marlins. And, well, guys, it's just been an incredible 7-week run. But I've got to tell you, there's 2 things that you should know by now if you follow me. When I am winning, I believe in pressing the action. I never walk away from the table, to use a betting analogy at the casinos, when I've got a hot hand. But the other thing you should know about me is that I also never force a play. And this is a lousy, lousy baseball card. In fact, it's so bad that my best bet, it's only a 5-dime play tonight in the preseason on Pittsburgh and Green Bay. And that's why I'm going to break down the other 2 preseason games for you, because I hate the baseball card. So instead today, let me talk about another hot handicapper, and that would be Jeff Benton. Did he lose last night a 200-dime play after winning the first ever 200-dime play in his career the night before? Yes, he did, as the Dodgers bullpen once again failed them. And boy, did they have problems in the bullpen with Kelly Jansen out. But it doesn't obscure the fact that he has won 6 of the past 7 days and 12 of the last 17. And with his last 18 releases, $10 bettors have made $8,225. And tonight he has 150 dime up the ante winner number 6 in a row, the second biggest play of his career in baseball. Is his playoff implication lock on Colorado and Atlanta. You've got all those other 150 dime plays for over half price off. Same thing goes tonight. You save $70 by using coupon code BENTON150, BENTO150. And for your discounted football play tonight, look no further than Eric Schrader, going for winning day number 9 out of 12, top-rated 100-dime winner number 2 in a row, and 38 out of 63 on the Jets and Redskins. Had a 100-dime play last night with the Mets 16-5 over the Baltimore Orioles. You get it for over half price off, just like last night's winner on the Mets, by using coupon code, oh gee, let's come up with something original. Let's use the word football. Yes, that's your coupon code. All your other discounts, etc., are over on the home page. Before I go any further, let's talk about this day in history. Sad news first. On this day, back in 1948, Babe Ruth passed away after a long battle with cancer at the age of 53. And of course, in the music world, 1977, who passed away on this day at the age of 42? The King, yes, Elvis, passed away today at the age of 42. Unless you're one of these conspiracy theorists who probably also listen to Alex Jones, he passed away, yes, in Memphis, Tennessee at Graceland today at the age of 42. Do you like that sarcasm I slipped in there too as well? Also in the music world, in 1966, the Monkees' debut single, Last Train to Clarksville, was released on this day, eventually thanks to the TV show that debuted a month later on NBC, and this song was played 11 times in that TV show in the first year. It eventually moved to number 1 on the Billboard Top 100 charts on November 5th, where it enjoyed a 1-week run at the top of the charts. On this day in 1962, Pete Best is fired as the Beatles drummer by manager Brian Epstein, who had the gall to actually ask him to play that night for a show. Best originally agreed, and then he thought better of it and decided to opt out of that engagement. And here's a little tidbit for you Beatles fans and non-Beatle fans as well. 1968, on this day, the Beatles recorded While My Guitar Gently Weeps. 14 takes are done at the EMI Studios in London. The EMI Studios, eventually known as the Abbey Road Studios. They were renamed in 1985. I talked about that last week in one of the video reports. But That is the story that you will run across at many sites, and many people will say, oh, today is the day that While My Guitar Was Gently Weeps was eventually recorded. But that's not really the whole story. You know, the first take was actually done in an acoustic version by George Harrison back on July 25th. And yes, they did 14 takes in the studio today, and at that time the Beatles were not exactly a harmonious group getting along together. So the first full session was recorded today. But they did another full band recording on September 5th. And they did that full recording. That was done shortly after Ringo returned to the band because he had walked out of the group because nobody was getting along back on August 22nd. But the hit version, the version that we are all used to hearing, that was actually recorded on September 6th because it was on that day that George was riding along with Eric Clapton, and he asked his friend Clapton to come in and play the guitar on the version that we are all accustomed to hearing. And Clapton was a little reluctant at first because he thought, you know, oh my God, you're asking me to come in and play with the Beatles. But he did. He came in and played Harrison's guitar, played it. Of course, they went into the studio afterwards. The Beatles did. They did some mixing, and that is the version we, of course, are all accustomed to hearing. The original version, the acoustic version, of course, that was done on July 25th, you can hear on the Anthology 3 album. So there's your little tidbit for today on this day in history. Let's talk about your complimentary plays here tonight. New England is a 3.5-point favorite tonight at home against Philadelphia. The Eagles lost at home in their preseason opener 31-14 last week to Pittsburgh. That was a game in which Carson Wentz, of course, is out, still recovering from the knee injury. Nick Foles did not play last week either. He is expected to play tonight. Now, I can tell you in week 2 last year in the preseason, Doug Peterson played his starters 17, had him in there for 17 snaps. Who knows what's going to happen here tonight. Foles is expected to see some action. Then he'll be replaced by third stringer Nate Sudfeld, who was 10 for 14, 140 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 2 costly interceptions last week. Joe Callahan is the third string quarterback. He was 8 for 18 for 91 yards last week. The Eagles against Pittsburgh last week had 106 yards rushing, 325 total yards. Their first team defense was outstanding for the limited number of snaps they were on the field. After that, the Steelers moved the ball quite efficiently. Patriots looked awful against Washington in the first half. They were down 17-3. Second half, with Brian Hoyer quarterbacking the team, they moved the ball at will, outscored Washington 23-0 in the second half, and won that game 26-17. Hoyer, very efficient, 16 for 23, 144 yards to spark the comeback. Now, Tom Brady, who has been limited in the spring and the summer camp because of back issues, is expected to play tonight. He hopes to play tonight. He says he's going to play tonight. Bill Belichick has the final call on this matter. Patriots have some injuries at running back, but they've got a bevy of running backs to play here in the game. You know, it's a tough game to call. I got to be honest with you. I don't really think the Eagles care that much about this particular game. Maybe the Patriots have a little more incentive to play for, especially after the poor way these two teams both played last week. I lean a little toward New England in this contest, but I mean, it's a preseason game, and yes, it's a 50-50 betting proposition, so I lean a little toward New England minus the 3.5 points, and I would naturally go ahead and buy down the half point, as I usually do anytime when I'm betting the favorite and the line is between 3 and 4.5 points. The other game I want to talk about is the New York Jets, a 1-point underdog at Washington. Now, the Jets opened up with a 17-0 win at home over Atlanta. They scored all their points in the first half of that game, and of course, their quarterback play was outstanding in that contest with Teddy Bridgewater and the rookie Sam Darnold out of USC, both playing well. The rookie 13 for 18, 96 yards and a touchdown. Bridgewater 7 for 8 for 85 yards. Now they're taking on a Washington team whose secondary, the backups, primarily the second, third, and fourth stringers, were torched by Brian Hoyer last week, as I just told you. Jay Gruden was 11-5 straight up and 10-6 against the spread in his first 4 seasons as the Redskins coach prior to that loss last week. I think the big takeaway from the Redskins game last week was the number of injuries they incurred in that game. Of course, they lost Darius Geis, the rookie running back out of LSU, to a season-ending knee injury. they're already beat up at the running back position with Chris Thompson bothered by a leg injury. Will Alex Smith play tonight? Well, Jay Gruden's been non-committal whether or not he will see any action. Colt McCoy saw the bulk of the quarterback duty last week, played well in the first half, or in his series and the first half. 13 for 18, 189 yards, 2 touchdowns. Then he was replaced by Kevin Hogan, 7 for 9 for 44 yards. Often I have found that in the preseason, when a team suffers a couple of big injuries in a preseason game in the first couple of weeks, it seems to me that in the next week's game, what happens is the coaching staff is all the more hesitant to expose their starters and key personnel because they're fearful of incurring another injury. Even though common sense tells you that you can't predict when an injury will occur, right? It makes no sense, the mindset of these coaches, because it's almost like, well, if I don't play the guys in the preseason, that means they won't get hurt, even though the chances are they can get hurt just as easily in weeks 1 or 2 of the regular season as they can in weeks 1, 2, 3, or 4 of the preseason. You know, what they're really coaching against is the fact that if they expose the player in the preseason and he gets hurt, as opposed to playing him in the regular season, their job is more likely less to be on the line if they get hurt in the regular season as opposed to the preseason. So I think they're more gun shy when they suffer a devastating injury like the Redskins did. So the Jets, a younger team with much more to prove, trying to build that chemistry with their youth, I think Todd Bowles' team will play with more passion, and that's why I like the Jets. So of the two football selections, the Patriots and the Jets, I like the Jets more in terms of ranking the two complementary plays tonight, and I like their quarterback rotation much better as well going into this contest. So the Jets would be the better of the two complementary plays for this Thursday card. That'll do it, guys. I wish you well, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow when we do this again.